Bear down Chicago. Dexter Lawrence wants out of New York, and the Bears are the destination that changes everything in the NFC North. Adam Schefter already confirmed it. Lawrence formally requested the trade, and if Ryan Poles makes that call to the Giants before the draft, Chicago's interior defensive line goes from being the 29th ranked run defense in the league to being the nightmare of every offensive coordinator who has to draw up a game plan against the monsters of the Midway. But there is something Halas Hall is quietly moving that nobody is calculating correctly just yet, because while the Windy City is talking about the defensive trade of the year, there are two names on Caleb Williams' offense that could be packing their bags this very week before the draft even kicks off. Chicago's cap space sits at less than $1 million right now, less than $1 million. And the decisions Ryan Poles makes in the next few hours about Cole KMET and Tyson Bagent are going to determine whether that Lawrence trade is even possible in the first place. And just when you thought you had Ryan Poles' master plan for the Navy and Orange in 2026 all figured out, there is a name on day 3 of the draft that nobody in the Windy City is talking about, and that could be the vertical weapon Caleb Williams needs to do real damage in this offense all season long. Hit that like button if you are part of the real Bear Nation. Subscribe if you trust the Ryan Poles process and polls, because this video covers it all. Listen, this is what separates a team that talks about the Super Bowl from a team that actually goes and gets it. Bleacher Report is predicting a trade that would absolutely blow the roof off Halas Hall. The Chicago Bears acquiring Dexter Lawrence from the New York Giants. The proposed deal sends a 2026 fourth-round pick and a conditional 2027 third-rounder to New York. The return, a 3-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle, an interior lineman who is graded out as first, third, and second in run defense league-wide, according to Pro Football Focus, over 3 consecutive seasons. A guy with 21 sacks in 3 years before this past one. And yeah, 2025 was a rough year for him, but look at the context, bro. The Giants were a complete and total disaster. That's like blaming a 5-star chef because the restaurant burned down. Lawrence was not the problem. Now let me tell you why this matters specifically for Chicago, because this is where the analysis gets real. The Bears finished 29th in yards per carry allowed last season, 29th on a team that was fighting for a playoff spot. The interior defensive line was stopping running backs like a wet paper door, and on the interior pass rush side, only Gervon Dexter had more than 1.5 sacks. One player, that's it. You bring in Dexter Lawrence, and all of a sudden you have a Lawrence and Dexter duo on the inside. That is a nightmare for every offensive line in the NFC North. The double threat of interior penetration, the ability to collapse the pocket from the inside while Montez Sweat is bending the edge from the outside. Offensive coordinators are going to need therapy drawing up game plans against that. That's not hyperbole. That's just math. So how real is this? Well, Adam Schefter reported that Lawrence has formally requested a trade from the Giants over contract dissatisfaction. The man wants an extension, and New York just hasn't been able to get it done for years now. And new Giants head coach John Harbaugh was clear. Everybody is tradable. But Jordan Raanan, the Giants beat reporter at ESPN, also pumped the brakes, noting that New York can't just move on from Lawrence because they're already thin up front and the defense is built around him. Here's the catch, though. The proposed package in Bleacher Report is a fourth plus a conditional third, but every beat reporter tracking this situation says the Giants are going to want at minimum a second-round pick. Maybe even a first, and that's where it gets complicated for Poles because Chicago has picks, but not unlimited picks. Look, I could be wrong, but my gut tells me Poles has to make that phone call, not necessarily close it at any price, but pick up the phone, explore it, because if you land Dexter Lawrence before the draft, your defense goes from good to elite. And with Caleb Williams running that offense, a Bears team with an elite defense in 2026 is a Super Bowl caliber team, period. Is Poles willing to move premium picks? That's the million-dollar question we're going to get an answer to in the next few days. And I cannot wait. Okay, but while everybody is focused on the defense, there are two names on the offensive side of the ball that might be packing their bags before the draft even kicks off: Cole KMET and Tyson Bagent. Let's start with KMET. Bleacher Report is predicting a trade that sends him to the Ravens for a 2027 fourth-round pick. And before you flip out, the financial argument here is genuinely strong. Chicago has less than $1 million in cap space right now, less than $1 million in a league where backup safeties make $8 million a year. That's basically nothing. Moving KMET creates $7.4 million in immediate cap relief, or $9 million if they make it a post-June 1st trade. That is real money. That's the difference between being able to sign their rookie class and being stuck. And look, I want to be fair to KMET here because I think he gets undersold constantly. He was Caleb Williams' most reliable target at critical moments last season. His run blocking on the edge is elite level, and it was a massive reason why Chicago finished with the third best rushing attack in the NFL. You don't get that ranking without KMET anchoring those outside runs, but here's the cold reality. Colston Loveland is here. Loveland in year one posted 713 yards, 6 touchdowns, 58 catches. As a rookie, KMET last season in a reduced role had 30 catches, 347 yards, 2 touchdowns. The hierarchy has shifted, and Ben Johnson has already proven he loves using 2 tight end sets. My honest take, I'd rather see them restructure KMET's deal before trading him to Baltimore for a 4th, because as a second tight end in a 2-TE system that Johnson clearly loves, KMET still brings real value. But if the only alternative is being completely paralyzed in cap space and unable to build around Caleb, then you make the call and you move on. Now Tyson Bagent. And fam, this one is genuinely juicy. Ryan Poles stood at the podium at the NFL Combine and admitted straight up that they have been getting calls on BAGENT. Ben Johnson has publicly called him a top 32 quarterback in the NFL. And then Chicago signs Case Keenum to a 2-year deal worth $5.5 million. Why do you sign Keenum if you believe in BAGENT? The only logical explanation is that you are planning to move BAGENT before the season starts. Brad Biggs at the Chicago Tribune says Chicago would want a second-round pick in return. A second-rounder for a former undrafted free agent with limited starting experience. That is a bold ask. Very bold, but if some quarterback-desperate team calls with that offer, Poles should not hesitate for one single second. You run to the table and you sign that paper. The real risk, though, is this. If BAGENT is gone, Case Keenum is your backup behind Caleb Williams, and if Caleb misses even 3 or 4 games with an injury, your Super Bowl season is potentially cooked right there. That's a terrifying thought, so Poles has to be incredibly precise here. You cannot let your passion for a trade blow up your insurance policy behind your franchise quarterback. And while every conversation has rightfully been about the defense, there is one offensive position being dangerously ignored right now: wide receiver depth. With DJ Moore now in Buffalo after that trade, the Bears' depth chart at receiver is basically Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and then a giant question mark. Jade Walker is promising but unproven. Khalif Raymond is a trustworthy veteran, but he is not a playmaking weapon. After those two, you are looking at practice squad level guys. That is not good enough for a team with Super Bowl aspirations. Windy City Gridiron is projecting Chicago to take Dejon Stribling out of Ole Miss in the 3rd round. And the argument makes sense. Stribling ran a 4.3640 at the Combine. That is elite receiver speed. He stands 6'2", 207 pounds. He put back-to-back 800-yard seasons on film in college, including a 17 yards per reception average at Oklahoma State. The comp being thrown out is Jameson Williams, and I can see it. He is a vertical threat. A big play waiting to happen after the catch, and he has the frame to compete in contested situations, even if that part of his game still needs development. Does Chicago need him in round 1 or 2? No, but a 4.36 receiver falling today, 3 at 6'2", that is value. That is exactly the kind of pick Ben Johnson can turn into something real. And it gives Caleb Williams another genuine downfield threat that this offense has been missing since Moore walked out the door. And that is where we are, Bear Nation. 3 conversations that are going to define how Chicago arrives at the 2026 NFL Draft. Dexter Lawrence transforms the defense, the KMET and BAGENT situations, reshape the cap, and the resources Poles has to work with. And someone like Stribling could be the under-the-radar pick that nobody saw coming, but everybody talks about by week 8. I still believe this team is 1 or 2 moves away from being a genuine Super Bowl contender. Poles has to be aggressive, Johnson has to get the most out of every single piece, and Caleb just has to keep being Caleb. Fam, if this video fired you up, drop that like right now, and tell me down in the comments, would you make the trade for Dexter Lawrence? What is the maximum price you pay? I want to read every single response. Bear down, Chicago.